What is up, everybody? You're tuned in to the Anti-Gravity Group podcast, or AGG Pod if you want to be short and fancy with it. My name is Braden.
My name is Taylor.
And my name is Shane, or as you might know me, Postart.
And cool news, actually. We are on Spotify now, and we're working on getting put on other podcast listening platforms. So if you're watching this on YouTube right now and you want to take a nice drive with us, pop it on Spotify, and it'll be a good time. But anyway, we've got some topics of discussion for you today, and one of them came from Ryan, who is a Patreon supporter. He asked us to do an episode about launch prep. So that's what the primary focus of this episode is going to be about, and then we're going to dive a little bit into some viewer mail, so to speak. But yeah, so the first thing I want to kick off with the whole launch prep discussion is basically that I prep my rocket as much as I possibly can the day before the launch. Electronics in, charges in, which I know makes some people a little uncomfortable, but I've driven from Boise, Idaho to Taylor's house with charges connected to electronics, which is probably not the best thing to admit to, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, motor in, no igniter in the motor, obviously, because that's insane. But pretty much I just want my stuff to be ready, go take it out, put it on the pad, and fly it. But I'm gonna let my co-hosts chime in here.
I've done it a mixture of always. I've shown up to launches with everything locked and loaded, and you just pull it out and it's ready to go. And I've also shown up with pretty much nothing ready and done it all at the field. That's not as... that never goes as well. So, yeah, doing it all at home, except like, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I'll bring rockets that are just like a mini mag and I'll just buy a motor there and load it and fly it, motor deploy. Like, that's not really, like, a rocket like that's not hard to prep, but definitely at least get the altimeters in the rocket and like some E-matches sticking out or something. I'll usually go ahead and, I guess no matter what, I'll try to make all the charges at home because that sucks. I hate doing that. That's like the worst part. But
yeah, you get a little bit of wind and the black powder is just going everywhere.
And then you're like, your tape isn't sticking for some reason, and you're trying to do glove tip charges, and it's just like a disaster. So yeah.
I think my main separation is like, if I'm going to fly something that's going to be motor deploy, I'm fine with doing it at the field, like you said, and I pretty much will do it at the field every time. But if I'm flying any sort of electronics, then I'm going to try and do just about everything aside from putting the igniter in at home. Just have it ready to go out on the pad when I get there.
See, I'll even prep motor deploy flights like I did with the Fat Boy and the Kraken when we went to that Lucerne launch. I was like, I want to show up, fly my rockets, and they sit and do nothing for the rest of the launch.
I think I do that more when I go to like like if I do a 1-day shot in Argonne or something where I like drive down and fly rockets and then go home the same day. And then it's like I show up, have like 3 rockets ready to go, and you just like go through them all. And like at Airfest, I feel like it's more of an event, so I'm like okay with posting up and like getting stuff ready there.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes it's unavoidable. Like, if you're going to fly the same rocket twice, then obviously that has to happen. That's like, after I did my level 3, I flew my 4-inch Punisher on the L1040, and I hate building motors at the field, but other than just doing it at the hotel room, which was my plan, I instinctively remember getting the motor case apart. Actually, Chris Short emasculated me and removed the rear closure for me in the parking lot. Because I couldn't get it off, and then went back up to the hotel room, and I was like, I am not putting a motor together right now. That sounds awful.
I actually don't mind loading motors at the field as long as there's no glue involved. But
that is a big one that I feel like is implied here. Is if you have to glue the motor, you should do it at least the night before. I try to do it a couple days before if it's a motor that requires grain bonding. And Aerotech just put out a revised version of all their motors that do require grain bonding. So it's
and there's a chart now.
yeah. Yeah, and I'm kind of hoping that they'll be included. The instructions for gluing will be included with the motors more frequently than they were. Because like my M2050 didn't come with them, and then when I asked Aerotech, they're like, you shouldn't need it. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna glue it anyway because it's not gonna hurt anything to do it.
Yeah. I think any motor designation where you're like, wow, that seems spicy, you should just glue it.
Yeah, and it's even kind of starting to dip into the 54 range, the K1103, and the K2050.
I've always glued my K2050s, which is like most people weren't, I feel like. I've definitely seen a lot of K1103s, Kato, and those were definitely always not glued. So yeah, I feel like that one really helps. And they always do it the same way where it like gets toward the end of the burn and the grains collapse, and it's just super gnarly.
I feel like that one's super easy to think you don't need to glue too, just because like the K1100 is a thing.
Yeah.
Like, 1103, it's like the same thing. It's fine.
Yeah, except the K1103 has high solids, so
it turns into nozzle clogging sand.
Yeah.
But yeah, so prepping motors, I just have as much done as you can get done and are willing to comfortably have done. If your charges aren't something you want to travel with in your car, that's fine. But making them beforehand, even if they're not connected to your electronics in the car, is a godsend. I know a lot of people won't even do that, but it's a little weird to me to, I guess I gather that having the E-match and the black powder is a little more of a risk than just having a whole pound of black powder in your car, but at the same time, you already have a whole pound of black powder in your car in most cases, so if something's going to go wrong, it's not going to be pretty either way. Just, take your precautions and shunt your igniters.
I mean, I haven't heard of any E-matches haven't really gone off without people like turning on their electronics. So I feel like as long as you make sure your switches are good and stuff. I always, we all run twist and tuck or twist and tape, I guess. And there's always that moment where you're like moving the rocket around and the wires accidentally touch because you forgot to clip off the old wire and you go, oh no.
Yeah, there is one little detour I'd like to take real quick while we're talking about this. Don't turn your electronics on the flight line to check if you have continuity on your charges. I've been seeing a lot of people doing that lately.
I hear that a lot on the range. Like, I hear something beeping up, and I'm like, let's not do that. Like,
yeah, you're like, oh, good. 3 beeps, you got charges connected. Awesome.
If you want to do that at home or something, that's cool, I guess. But it's really not necessary with modern electronics. Like, the stuff just works as long as you're confident in your connections and stuff. Like,
yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I used to continuity test everything when I was prepping it at home. I would take it out back and turn it on, make sure everything's good. But I've now seen a couple different instances where an altimeter was turned on, then turned off, and then when it got turned back on, it fired the charges. So now I'm a little gun shy of that occurrence. So there is only one brand of electronics I've seen that happen with. We don't need to go into that, but it's not something I fly, so I'm not particularly worried about it. But yeah, especially... Was that
Matt? Was that Matt's?
Yeah, Matt's was one of them. But I mean, my level 3 flight when I was at the Econo Lodge there in Wellington, Kansas, for Airfest. For those unaware, that hotel is a little notoriously sketchy, and So I decided that I was going to be the one that everyone should be afraid of. So I walked outside and put a glowing, beeping piece of fiberglass tube with wires sticking out of it on the ground to test my continuity in the grass. And if there was anybody pulling some sketchy stuff at that hotel that night, it was me. So everybody left me alone. I had a very pleasant sleep. It was great. But one suggestion Taylor brought to the table for launch preparedness was things to have in your range box. And for one, have a range box. It's just I use a tackle box, and then we have like a small Stanley toolbox where we just try to congregate every single thing that we're going to need to execute a flight, and if anything goes wrong, have a solution for it. So Taylor is the man who's always got stuff that's handy, so I'm going to let him throw out some recommendations. We'll cover the basics here, but if anything specific you want to highlight.
Well, I don't, just doing it for a long time. There's so many times where you don't have what you need, and then you're like, man, that's super essential. And I think my grandpa was just always super prepared, so we started getting to where we always had everything. But a big thing that a lot of people don't have that I've recently forgot a lot that is like crucial is a big dowel, like push motors out or to clean motor cases or fish some recovery stuff through your rocket, or just like it's so useful for like a million different things. And sometimes a couple different sizes, like one like broom handle size and maybe like a smaller like 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch or something, just to cover whatever you need. And if you fly some really big stuff, to make sure you have dowels to support your igniters if you're doing some big igniters or spicy igniters or that type of thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's a concept not a lot of people are familiar with that have asked me about it a couple times from videos about the igniter being on a dowel, but it's really just to support the igniter and keep it straight so you can make sure it's not flopping over or getting jammed halfway up the motor, so you can make sure it's actually all the way at the top.
And I think it's more so when you are doing like Pyrex pellets or thermite or pieces of Blue Thunder to augment ignition, because like I'm certain I could put any igniter. Well, we did a M4500s, like anything through 98. Like I could get an igniter from Tim and fish it up in the motor. Like you might have to be more careful with a bigger core like that, but you don't need a dowel to fly a 75 or 98 millimeter motor with a regular igniter. Some people think you do, you don't. But
I usually do it just because I like the convenience of it.
It is nice, yeah. I usually, I mean, for 98s for sure. On shorter 75s, I don't. The longer one is nice, like 6 grains.
Yeah, the only one I think I didn't use in any recent history, a dowel, was the M650, but that's
you can't really on this
because it's got the offset core, which so I was told there's prepared to be a nightmare to get the igniter in, and it just kind of slid right in, no problem. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I got a good one.
I think it was harder when it had a Medusa nozzle.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
Such a small hole you had to put it through.
But yeah, the big stick is definitely a good recommendation. That was right after watching Taylor just have one handy. That was like first thing I did was go to the hardware store and get like 1-inch dowel that's 4 feet long or something like that.
Besides that, we have some sort of pliers. I actually am not. I need to buy more pliers. I think right now all I have are needle nose, but useful for a million things. Again, like the dowel. Tiny screwdrivers for electronics and hardware and whatever else.
Stuff apart.
Yeah. Lately, a number 2 Phillips screwdriver has been pretty useful for our type of motor retention we've been using on the big rockets. And, I've had certain rockets that have Phillips screws to hold couplers in and things like that.
I think one of my favorite niche items that you have in your range box is like a small handheld hacksaw, because without you just having had that on hand, my 54 rocket wouldn't have flown because I had to cut the coupler down right before it flew.
Yeah, that's something I got from my grandpa. He'd always just have a hacksaw blade, like not even a hacksaw, because it fits so easily in like the little tray of your toolbox or whatever, or like it could fit anywhere in your range box. But you just put like a 10-inch hacksaw blade in there and like a metal blade, and you could cut fiberglass or like all thread or whatever you need. And that came in handy. Like you were the first one probably that's ever used it, but I always keep it in there.
Yeah, so I mean, the real easy way to get that all situated would be go buy one of those X-Acto sets that like comes with the handle with the number 11 blade, and they have the one that's like the little hacksaw. It's like one of those like 5-piece starter sets if you're building a range box from scratch or don't have any sharps in your range box. I highly recommend that. I don't even have one, but I just thought of that and think now I might have to get one.
Yeah, obviously an X-Acto knife or utility knife is a must-have too.
Postard, any recommendations?
I don't know. I mean, you guys know a whole lot more than I do. So.
Postard, something I've noticed launching rockets with Postard is he has like the best hardware selection that you would never think you need. He has like this little jar just filled with miscellaneous hardware, but it's all stuff that's useful on a rocket. So
yeah, it's like all quarter 20 nuts and washers and just like wing nuts. And he's got nylock nuts in there, like anything you could imagine. He's just got it.
Yeah, I keep a whole tray of just anything quarter 20 because it's used on AV bays, motor retention that we've been doing, everything.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I mean, lately it seems like it's nice making everything quarter 20 because then everything's interchangeable. But it is nice to always have, I'd say, for an official tip, like whatever hardware you're using your rocket, like make sure you have some spares because like it's super easy to drop stuff and lose them out in the field. And then if you have 3 screws holding your electronics bay in and you drop one and you don't have any extras and it's something specific that no one's going to have, like,
yeah,
you basically can't fly your rocket then.
That goes all the way down to like rail buttons. Like I have a bag of like 50 1010 rail buttons and a bunch of 1515s. Shout out Randy from railbuttons.com. Amazingly cheap rail buttons that like you can just bulk buy 30 and it's reasonably affordable and you just have them on deck.
Yeah, I have those in my box too. That's just where I keep all of my rail buttons because they don't get lost that way, and then you always have them on the field and they wear out. So like there's a lot of times I'll be getting ready to fly a rocket. I notice it's all chewed up and I swap it out right then and it's ready to go. So yeah, it's super nice.
Let's touch on the very basic needs of a range box, though, because these are
bare bones.
Yeah, these are pretty niche things, but like above all else, if you're flying motor deploy and you have delay adjustment tools, throw those in the box and never take them out unless you're going to use them, because for some reason they're very difficult to get a hold of, even at a big launch site where there's vendors. I've struggled to find them before. Taylor does it the old school way, so that's not exactly applicable to him. But I mean, electrical tape. I must have burned through 50 rolls of electrical tape in my rocketry career. Masking tape, as our good friend John Clifton would say, the real masking tape, and none of the colorful nonsense tape. I like my colorful nonsense tape, but I
like the green stuff.
Yeah, the frog tape. It's so good. But in honor of our friend John, I do like to keep some of the OG tan masking tape on hand now. But what else? What are some essentials?
Tiny screwdriver.
I
mean, fly electronics, you got to have the little screwdriver.
Yeah, just make sure that it's one that actually fits in the terminal blocks of your altimeters, because I've run into that before, where I've had one that was too big for a tiny terminal block.
Yeah, I recently ran into that with the Raven after only flying Perfect Flight and Missile Works, and I'm like, oh, it has tiny terminal blocks, so I had to go do a smaller one. But
Maybe what I'll do is I'll compile all these ideas into another Amazon list, and we can put the link in the description for the podcast, and we'll just have a range box starter kit ready for you on Amazon. And if you buy it through that link, you'll be helping us out. So we'd appreciate that very much. But I feel like in the moment, there's so many things I can't think of right now that
I got one.
Go for it.
This is something that we just started using last year, but it is like so essential now. And it's strap wrenches.
Oh man,
If you fly 75 or 98 millimeter motors, it's nearly impossible to get by without a good set of strap wrenches, because the closures, especially the forward closure, just gets stuck for like to where you can't even two people cranking on it with their hands, it just tears your hands up and you can't hardly get it. Also, crank those O-rings down, baby.
Yeah, and Carl from Aerotech recommended to us if there's a gap on the rear closure. First of all, it's fine. This is like 75 and 98 millimeter stuff. He said if there's a gap, make sure the forward closure's on tight. Take the strap wrench and just get it as tight as you can on the back end. Make sure you're really sealing those O-rings, which is crazy. It feels incredibly uncomfortable to do, but now it's second nature. And that's actually another courtesy of John Clifton item. I never thought to have a strap wrench until I couldn't take my motor apart after my level 3, and he's like, here, I have one.
That was one of those things I knew people had, but my only experience with the strap wrench was like a cheap Harbor Freight one, and I could never get it to work. So I thought strap wrenches just sucked, but it turns out it was me that sucked. So, well, and Harbor Freight, but
No, I was gonna say I would say you get what you pay for, but I love Harbor Freight.
I do love Harbor Freight, but the strap wrenches aren't it. You gotta
Nor
to
the power tools, except
Yeah.
for the sander.
That sander did go pretty hard.
Yeah, it's sick.
But yeah, go get a nice set of strap wrenches, whatever the not the cheapest one is. I think the ones me and Matt bought were $20 or something. I don't know. So
Yeah, I think I just got a Stanley one from Home Depot or something like that.
Same thing goes for snap ring pliers. Good
Yes,
ones
dude.
make a huge difference.
Yeah,
How do we-
Knipex, baby.
that's how we say. Yeah.
Yeah,
Knipex.
That's kind of a niche one at this point, though. I mean, people still fly Loki, so that is. I feel like a good set of snap ring pliers isn't quite on so many people's range box list as it was 2 decades ago. But yeah, definitely if you're going to buy some, buy good ones.
Besides that, a dog barf is nice to have.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's another one of those things we should clarify for rocketry people not in the know, because that sounds insane. It's
Yeah.
it's cellulose fiber. It's you can buy a whole brick of it at Home Depot for like $12. That brick will last you your entire lifetime, and it's blow-in like flame-proof insulation, and it's
for like your attic.
biodegradable. So you can just throw it in a rocket and it'll biodegrade with some rain and what have you.
And yeah, my favorite use of dog barf is, I mean, everyone's using Nomex these days, right? Whatever, but it's the peace of mind handful of dog barf that's just gonna fill in the gaps and make you feel better about your parachutes.
If you're doing charge wells too, it's really nice to have it compact on top of the charge. Because that's not something we typically do, but on our huge rockets we do that, and it's super nice. Just pat it down, tape it up, call it a day. What else we got for range box stuff?
Paper towels.
Yeah, and my new favorite thing right now is the tub of towels wipes they're kind of expensive, but they're so good. Like they clean up glue and everything.
Having some CA or 5-minute epoxy for quick fixes.
Yeah,
That's always good.
That's definitely a good one.
With some popsicle sticks thrown in there. I always try to keep a few popsicle sticks for mixing epoxy or just miscellaneous things. Sometimes the popsicle sticks, like, we found the perfect little piece of wood that you need to shim something or whatever.
Another one that, like, it's a little niche and it kind of only applies to bigger rockets, but like having a drill with those big sanding drums.
Or also just a drill in general. I always bring a little drill with a set of drill bits. I actually have a drill specifically for rocket launch. It's a little 12-volt Ryobi, but because it just seems like, you know, whether it's just cleaning up shear pin holes or you forgot to put a vent in or you need to drill a new rail button hole, and I've had, you know, everyone goes, "Oh, you have a drill? Can I borrow that?" So that's just one of those things that is, once you have it, you never want to not have it.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I feel like it's just escaping me right now, things that should be super obvious to have in the range box. But basically, to sum it up,
grease.
Yeah, grease, definitely. Any scenario you could imagine that would prevent you from flying your rocket, make sure you have it with you. It's one of those things where, like, it's ever evolving. To this day, there's still stuff that I see other people have on site with them and then decide that I'm going to start bringing that too. So unfortunately, it kind of is one of those things where you got to not have it to learn that you need it sometimes, but we're doing our best here to set you guys up for success.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say if, you know, the main things are going to be all the tape that you need and like paper towels and some sort of cleaner. Oh, and a trash bag. We always forget the trash bag.
Yeah, that is a good one too. I've never like actively brought a trash bag, but Taylor always has one, like ties it to the Easy Up, which doesn't fit into range box, but if you don't have an Easy Up and it's in your financial cards, what an amazing asset. That falls a little bit more into the overall launch prep, but yeah, and a cooler, bring tons of water. I mean, especially if you're going somewhere hot, it's really, really unbelievably easy to become dehydrated when you're walking through the desert looking for a rocket.
Yeah, it's especially when you think that it's not going to be a very long recovery, and then it turns into a all-day thing. You should just always bring at least one bottle of water with you when you go to get recover a rocket, or just go out to the launch pad or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, so the next portion of Ryan's recommendation was asking when to fix and diagnose a problem on the pad versus when to take the rocket back to the flight line. And as unfortunate as it is to have to carry your rocket back, usually if there's any shadow of a doubt for me, I will take it back.
Yeah, there's not really much, I would say, that is fixable at the launch pad. Unless it's like, oh, my nose cone, I just noticed my nose cone could use a little piece of tape to get it to fit better, and maybe something like that, but no, like, real problem.
Right. Well, especially if you're not flying like a big motor. If you're close and you're like, oh yeah, there's still time, I can run and grab another igniter because I'm 50 feet away, that's one thing. But if you got a big rocket with electronics in it, especially if you have an electronics issue, do not risk it. Do not ask why I'm making that recommendation, but it's not worth it, man.
I've done it too. Actually, it was an electronics problem. It was a charge problem. And I had 2 altimeters and only 1 apogee charge. And I thought, this will be fine. That's why I have 2, right? and then it didn't work.
That's exactly what I did as well. And
Yeah.
it cost me a 75 millimeter motor case.
It cost me a brand new 54 2560, but that was when I was 16. So
Yeah, Postart doesn't really have any expensive failures under his belt yet.
not yet.
Yeah. I'd like to keep it that way, but I know that's just being optimistic. And
Yeah, Matt finally had his first one, and it basically made him quit rockets. He buried Taylor's 3840 for those unaware. His 3-grain 75 case. Would you fly L850? And his rocket came in ballistic. We won't air out the cause for that. Maybe we should try and do an episode on our worst rocketry experiences and try and get Matt on.
Yeah. That would be good. Hear the pain in his voice still.
Postar's just going to be like, my rocket that was supposed to go 10,000 feet didn't go 10,000 feet, but I still got it back perfectly fine.
yeah.
Yeah, man, it's rough. What were we talking about?
The when to fix it on the pad and when to take it back. But I mean, like we were saying, if there's any sort of like real issue that you even think for 1 second not to fly it because of it, take it back. As the person who got laughed at for having to carry his 50-pound 8-inch V2 back to the flight line in Midwest Power last year, it's worth the heckling to make sure your rocket survives and, above all else, doesn't come in ballistic and risk injuring people or property. With especially with a rocket that big, I was like, there's no way I'm dropping 50 pounds of fiberglass on the flight line.
I just had to bring one back at Airfest. My 4-inch level 3 rocket, only one altimeter, loose. It was just a loose wire, but we brought it all the way back, open it up. Yep, there's the loose wire. Hook it back up, go back out, and all was well. But
It's
never
like
again.
It's like a curse. If you have 2 altimeters, it will almost always be fine as if you had one. But if you have 2 and one is not correctly set up, it seems to be guaranteed that you will not have a successful
every
flight.
time. Even if it's just one charge or whatever. What's funny is then if you're flying one altimeter, then it seems to all work. But if you have 2 and there's a problem with one, that means your rocket will crash.
It's destiny. But yeah, that's just take it back. It's not worth it. Trust us. It's too expensive to just think everything will be okay.
That kind of goes for prep too. Just kind of on the Go Fever topic, because if you're having problems while you're prepping and maybe it's a brand new rocket and it has some complex stuff you're not familiar or you haven't done before. I don't know. It seems like it happens a lot of minimum diameter rockets where the complexity is a lot higher, or a 2-stage or something, and things aren't going right. It's really easy to just I gotta fly it, and so you say it'll be fine and all whatever, and then it's not fine.
Yeah, and that applies to like steps even. Like really make sure you're good. Just this last Airfest, we had somebody come up to us and say that they just entirely forgot to turn their electronics on.
I'm surprised at the amount of people that happens to.
Yeah, it happens quite a bit, which is crazy to me. But yeah, I would advise being very, very careful with your prep, especially like Taylor said, if it's something new to you. Like we rip through prepping a standard dual deploy rocket, but it's just because we've done it so many times. But yeah, take your time. Just make sure you're careful.
Like at Airfest, I flew the big Suma behind me, and it had a setup that had never done before. Dual deploy all out of one end using a tether release, and then the electronics were in a hatch, and using a featherweight Raven, which I'd never used before, and it was just like a lot of different things that weren't overly complex, but it was a lot different than what I was used to. And so, like, instead of having a rocket that I could throw together in 10 minutes like normal, I'm sitting there for like an hour and a half making sure I got the 20 quick links hooked up, and the chute is gonna be in the place it needs to be and everything for the tether to release properly, and it pretty much all worked right. And so, but it's taken going through everything and making sure it's gonna work. And same with like when we fly the big Punisher or whatever, like we sort of had it set up to be as simple as possible, but it's still like go through it all. And if you're like, when we I think when we weren't sure, if we thought maybe we had lost a nut on the top side electronics bay, and we made the decision to go ahead and pull it all apart, even though we were getting ready to take it out to the pad, just to give us that peace of mind and to make sure, because you can't really afford to have something like that happen. So it's just like, if you have any doubt, then you have to pull it apart, or you not necessarily pull it apart, but you need to take the time to address the situation, I guess.
Yeah, and a little paranoia goes a long way. I mean,
Yeah.
you can ask Postar or Taylor how many times I will verify that they watched me tighten a quick link on the most basic flight. To the point where I even started like texting them pictures of it. I'm like, see, it's attached. I did this. And yeah, I mean, it's not a bad thing to make sure. Just be real positive in what you're doing.
Yeah, and I've definitely pulled out shear pins before to pull it back apart and like look at, did I attach that quick link? And almost always yes. But the one time that you don't check is the time that you didn't. So
yeah, exactly. It's the opposite of the. It's a little bit of a crossover here. The LS swap world. People say that the camshaft bearings will only be bad if you take the camshaft out and look at them. If you don't look, they're always good. It is the opposite for rockets. Always check, even if you're like 99% sure that 1% is enough for you to pull it back apart. It's realistically, with a recovery system, adding maybe 5 minutes to your prep time, it is not worth the risk. But before we move on to the viewer mail segment, anybody have any last minute range box recommendations or launch prep things to bring even outside of rockets themselves, like water, easy up, stuff like that?
Well, just in the prep of flying a rocket, I guess, like, something I've noticed is a lot of people are still putting their igniters in before they turn on the electronics, which seems probably those people that are forgetting to turn on the electronics. Clearly that's something they normally do. Right? But I've been a pad manager at big launches before, and it's like, I shouldn't have to tell people to do that, but it seems to be a super common thing. And I've had people like get upset with me, and it's just like, what would happen if those leads were hot? You connected it, and so not only did we have a rocket go off right in front of us, now we have one that's going to come in ballistic because you didn't turn on your electronics. So
right.
Always turn on your electronics before you put the igniter in. Even if, I've also, for some reason, people just get excited about putting that igniter in, because I've seen some people like put it in and they're like, well, I'm not going to hook it up yet. And it's like, well, what if you got to take it off the pad or whatever? Like, just don't do that. Just turn your electronics on, make sure they're all good, and then you can put the igniter in and walk away.
This one isn't really like a huge necessity, but more for ease. But a pen or pencil for filling out flight cards. Sure. I don't know how many times I've gone up to the table to grab a flight card, and all the pencils or pens or what have you have been taken by other people. So just keep your own with you. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, big shout out again to Randy from railbuttons.com and Chris from CS Rocketry. I have one of each of their pens has been in the door pocket of my car since like Airfest 2019. Or I guess it'd be LDRS 38. Yeah, there you go. The Chris's Rockets pen. So like if I get a pen at a rocket launch, it stays either in the range box or in the car. I always want to have something to write with.
Yeah, I think I even have a Wildman pin somewhere.
Oh yeah, the American flag one.
The American flag ones.
I have
I got an SBR pin. Chris Short. At this point, they're just slinging them out. So just throw some of those in your range box, and so you'll always be ready.
And tell them the anti-gravity group sent you. No, don't. Actually, don't tell them we're telling you to steal all their free pens. But if that's it, guys, I think it's time we move on to the viewer mail segment. What do we think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good to me.
So I prioritized the Patreon questions first. So we have a couple. We didn't get a ton in this particular instance, but I believe we actually got quite a few more. But the first one I actually thought was very, very interesting question. It's going to be super tough for us. What is your Max asks, what is your favorite motor plus rocket plus launch site combination? I don't even know where to start with that. It's a tough one.
I mean, I'll just go if I had to choose one flight to do forever, probably 3-inch Punisher with the K375 at Argonia. It's so solid.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to lean into the 3-inch Punisher too. If you're familiar with us, you know that in our eyes, the 3-inch, well, just the Wildman Punisher kits, the whole series is just perfect. It is the best rocket.
But the 3-inch is really the OG, and also like the D4 is such a good bread and butter size, so it's hard to choose one over that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was leaning towards, too, is the 3-inch Punisher. I was going to say probably K1100, but, yeah, I feel like my favorite site also has to go to Argonia, because if there was one that I would prefer to be at over Argonia, I think it would be the Salt Flats again, and we can't do that anymore.
That's the only place I've been to pretty much the only place I've been to besides Argonia, where I was just like, I wish I could fly here all the time. It's so sick.
Black Rock was enlightening for the first time, though. Like, it's amazing. It really is. Like, it's just like Bonneville, and where you can just drive straight to your rocket. There's like unlimited recovery space. But I feel like saying something that's a combination that I've never flown before isn't really fair, and I've never flown anything at Black Rock. So for now, 3-inch Punisher, K1100, Argonia, Kansas. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna go K1275 and a 3-inch Punisher in Argonia.
Make it chuff a lot.
Yeah. Make it almost come off the rail, but not quite. Perfect flight.
Reference to Shane at Cloudburst this year with the first flight of his 3-inch Punisher on a 20-year-old K1275 that chuffed a scary amount.
Yeah, Jim Scarpine gave each of us a K1275 for helping him fly his rocket at Midwest Power last year, and they were they were right after Redline was brand new, right? 2001?
Yeah, they were Vegas motors.
Yep.
So if you're not familiar, lighting an old composite motor can be quite the chore, and we had some spicy stuff in there, but it didn't quite do it, and we were all getting real worried that it was going to have one good chuff where it would just push the rocket off the rail and then the motor would come up to pressure. Fortunately, that didn't happen, but by the time it lit, it was probably like a J800.
Yeah.
How high did that thing go again?
It was
It's like 10,000, right?
I think it just barely broke 11. Yeah.
Which, for reference, a like my 3-inch Punisher on that size motor will do like at least 13.
Yeah, mine did like 12 and a half and 18-mile-an-hour wind and weathercocked super hard.
On a 1275?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh,
That it
why? 'Cause
weathercocked.
it's so heavy. Oh, yeah, it turned so hard. I was like, it's a K1275. It'll be fine. Nah, it went. But
I'll say my runner-up combo would be Polecat 5.5-inch Nike Smoke on a K1100, because that's like, I feel like my signature combo, just because I've done it so many times, and that was like my favorite thing when I was a teenager. So
yeah, I think I need to get a K1100 for my Polecat Nike Smoke as well.
it's just big enough that like the K1100 still moves it hard, but you can really appreciate the flame, and it's loud and just awesome.
It really is. It's a great motor for a rocket that size. But I also thought about doing K695s, just since mine's the inverse of a Nike Smoke. So I have to go backwards on what you do.
That's the only 1706 load I haven't flown, I think. Oh, and the fast blackjack, but that doesn't really count in my eyes.
Wow. Throwing shade.
And the Metal Storm, I haven't flown one of those either.
K540? I've seen some that I liked. I'm not a big fan of the white smoke Sparkies, but I've seen a couple that were pretty good.
Same, but I don't really need to fly one.
Yeah, I don't think I'll probably buy one either. But at any rate, we'll move on. Neutronia masts. Are there any motors that you wish manufacturers would put into production? I'd love a 75-60-400 Super Thunder reload or a modern version of the KBA M3500R. Wouldn't we all love a modern M3500? What a crazy motor. Those things were like $365 or something like that for a 6-grain 75M. I'm more partial to the M1450, which was the White Lightning counterpart. But yeah, these were Cosden by Aerotech loads for anyone unfamiliar. Basically, Aerotech was producing these motors with their own propellant under the name Cosden by Aerotech, licensed with Frank Cosden for his hardware. And they've been out of production for a long, long time. But if you happen to have one or an L2300 KBA motor, let me know. I'm looking to blow my case up. Those are very notorious, but I want one anyway.
I think those were the Cosden by Aerotech animal compatible ones. Because they also had Cosden by Aerotech that was like Cosden propellant.
I hear that, but yeah, okay. I don't know. I've never
there was fast, Cosden fast, and I don't know if there was Cosden slow motors or not, but
I don't remember that, but it could just be amazing.
Well, it's because those I don't think those sold as well as the Aerotech ones. So.
Right. I mean, like, a lot of people don't know that CTI made, skid marks, not a CTI propellant. A lot of people don't even know that.
Yeah, that is crazy.
AMW is the original skid mark, and CTI and AMW came to an agreement eventually that led to CTI producing all the skid mark propellant. Which was interesting that they already had their own flavored propellants, so to speak, but they didn't have a Sparky, so it was weird, especially for the time that AMW was still around, where wasn't there a period where they were both making skid marks?
I actually don't think that CTI had came out with their own flavors of colors until the merger happened.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Wow, I guess I'm not up on my AMW CTI history.
Because when it first happened, they had a lot of branded motors that were like CTI Pro X, and so it would be like a CTI Blue Streak, but you could also buy it as a Blue Baboon.
Oh, interesting.
And the Smoky Sam was Black Bear, which there was never an official AMW Black Bear. AMW never had their own Smoky propellant, so stuff like that.
Anyway, we took a pretty hard turn away from the question.
I have a pretty long list of like motors that don't exist that I want.
I have great news too when I talked to Gary at Balls about a long burn motor for the N4000 case. He said a lot of their motors come from customer requests, so this could be our time to shine. I don't think a Super Thunder 6400 load's coming, but
Yeah, that's pretty much impossible.
we can speak some other stuff into existence. Let's give it a shot. Go ahead, Taylor.
Well, the 3840 Super Thunder is totally doable. And I would like to see that, something like an L3000 or L3500, something like that. A classic Blue Thunder 5120 load would be pushing it, but I believe could be done with some work. I don't know. If you do 3 longer grains, I mean, I don't know. We're not motor makers, but I think you could reel it in. If the M2500 exists, it only sometimes Kato's.
Right. Well, that's the
We
thing.
can get a 5120 to work.
I think the M2050 is kind of a good example of
Yeah.
making it possible. I do think a Blue Thunder motor for that case is possible as well, but
I didn't think it was possible till the M2050 came out, and then I'm like, I don't know.
that's how
Maybe it was just yeah.
the
That's pretty
M2050
long
is pretty
grains.
long grains. Yeah.
Uh,
Can I
Also-
volunteer one? Oh,
yes, go ahead.
on your behalf, the 38720 Blue Thunder load,
Yeah.
the i500 reloadable.
I feel like that's going to be harder to reel in, but I don't know. Since the i500 exists as a single use motor, it's almost the same. I'm like, it should be possible. Just instead of 6 short grains, do 5 slightly longer grains, or 4 even. Try to do that. I don't know. Yeah, that I want. I've been tempted to just buy the RCS stuff and try to make one myself.
Yeah, give it a shot. You got a ton of 720s, so you can afford to lose one.
I ran it through BurnSim the other day. I
How'd
don't
it go?
remember what. I don't know. It looks good on paper, but
Doesn't it always?
it doesn't mean anything.
Paw start?
I want pink and purple stuff. I mean, I know CTI does it, and I know that people do it with RCS grains, and they'll make their own. But I want some actual ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, Loki has the cocktail loads, which are
Yeah,
usually pretty purple, leaning towards pink a little bit. But yeah,
From what I've seen, that's the only super reliable way to get that color is to mix grains.
well, I don't think Loki's is mixed though.
Yeah.
It is?
It's just Loki red with Loki blue, which is
okay.
crazy because Loki red's super slow and Loki blue's fast, but it works.
I mean, after seeing the N5500 and the nozzle assembly at LDRS, if I believe anybody could make a crazy motor work, it would be Scott from Loki.
Yeah, for sure. I think the red grains are like shorter too. Don't quote me on that.
Interesting.
I
wouldn't
hit.
dare.
Those are interesting because it's like the grain configuration is backwards of what I've heard some other people say. Like they're like put the fast propellant toward the nozzle. I don't know. Don't quote me on this. I haven't flown Loki motors, but I've looked at the diagrams. I want to say it's like the blue goes on top, which seems backwards to me, but I don't know. I guess it works.
Yeah, I don't. People have asked me before what orientation the grains are in the M1675, the CTI 5 grain pink, and I don't remember. I don't remember how much of each there is. I want to say it's 3 red and 2 blue, but maybe it's the other way around. I have one. I guess I could go check, but yeah, people are like, yeah, how's it set up? I'm like, I should probably remember that, but there's a video of me assembling it, so go check it out if you want to figure that out.
Another motor I'm interested in is a 1706 long burn Blue Thunder, like the J180, but twice as long, which
That
is
would be so
interesting. If you look at the old instructions on the Aerotech website on the resources page for the J180 instructions, it says 54.852 through 1706 long burn Blue Thunder, and for the 1280 and 1706 case, it just had TBA.
Oh,
there.
interesting. So
there was that, and I've seen a post from Gary a while ago where it was like they were planned but never happened, basically. But I'm like a long burn, like a long burn K Blue Thunder would be so awesome. Especially, J180s are pretty cool. Forever, those were not popular. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of them, and they just are pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of them lately too, and they are. I wanted to fly my 4-inch Little John on that for the first time, but it wasn't quite lining up with the mile contest that I lost anyway. So
yeah, I did pretty well.
Yeah, you did. Great, happy for you. Did you build that rocket yet?
No.
Weak, dude.
I feel like you'd see the flame better on the 1706 one too.
Yeah,
it would be
definitely. I don't think it'd be huge still, but yeah.
No, but I mean, it would just be a really cool motor. Anyway, go ahead.
My weird motor wish list is a lot of it is from fascination and aerotech stuff that's like been test burned and then kind of fell to the wayside. A 7680 dark matter load would be awesome. But I keep going back and forth on whether I like dark matter lately because they haven't been as noisy as I want, which brings me to the next propellant that Aerotech was working on for a while. It was called Loudmouth.
Loudmouth. Yes.
And it was like a propellant specifically designed to sound like a Sparky and just be obnoxious, but it wasn't a Sparky. It was like it was burning and putting itself out constantly.
Yeah. Did you see the photo that was posted on I think it was the Tripoli Facebook page of, well, you probably got video of it, I don't know if it was a big mosquito or what it was, but it was like looked like a Sparky, but there was no sparks.
Oh, the quark.
And it had with a blue flame. Yeah, the quark.
Yeah, so somebody messaged me.
Did you see that fly?
Yeah, I have a good video.
Was it loud?
Yeah, it was super loud. I thought it was a Sparky until somebody joined the Patreon and asked me about it, and Eric Hamberg commented because
that's what I was gonna say. Talking about taking his blue formula down too far I can't talk. Lowering the solids to a point where there's basically too much binder and it makes black smoke and kind of like does the Sparky thing where it's putting itself out.
Right.
But it's a blue. I mean, that's a super cool idea. That would be cool to have in production if you could get that reliably.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the big problem, is it like being consistent. But yeah, because he flew at Midwest Power.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Tim yelled at him because he thought it was a Sparky. He's like, it
was so loud.
Yeah, it really was. Oh yeah, and I kind of already spoiled it, but long burn for the N4000 case, which would basically be a competitor to the CTI N1560. That's something I really, really want. Can't necessarily afford, but want regardless. And on that same topic, if we could have the N4800 back, I'd take it.
On the topic of Aerotech projects that were abandoned, and motors that we need in production, the 98 10240 Propellant X.
Yeah, the slow one that burned for like 4.5 seconds. It was like an M2040.
Yeah, I don't understand that, but
me neither. But I want it.
We need one. That's what we need. That's what I want for the Punisher.
Yeah, that would be sick.
The 05500 is just too much.
Yeah. Right now.
It would be cool. Yeah. Till we get that Old Bay sponsorship.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The Manscaped sponsorship.
Yeah.
I want a Raid Shadow Legends wrap on the Punisher. But, all right, let's move on. Dylan Bender asked a handful of them. One of them was how we got started in rocketry. We actually covered that on the first episode of the AGG podcast. But real quick, we can have Postart run through how he got started.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was flying like SD stuff when I was younger because Braden and his dad were flying rockets when I was like 6, 7, 8. And then after that, I kind of fell out of it for a while until I was I don't know, I think probably 15 or 16 is when I got back into it and started wanting to do high power stuff. And it was really just because of seeing Braden and his dad fly stuff. My uncle, it made me want to, and now here we are.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of over a lot of people's heads that we're cousins. But if you were missing that information, that's my cousin, Postard.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's we sucked him in, much like we're trying to do with all of you fighting people who aren't yet in rocketry but are listening an hour in. All right. This is an interesting one. Dylan Bender asks, what do you think the hobby of rocketry will look like in 5, 10, 20, and 50 years?
Oh, boy.
I feel like eventually it's going to come to a point where it's going to be like all research motors. I feel like CTI already has 1 foot out the door on hobby motors. And, I mean, Aerotech's still going very strong, but nothing can last forever, right? And I don't know, maybe Gary's got a plan for somebody taking over, but
I think there is a plan. I mean, maybe not completely solidified, but a general idea of what they want to happen.
You would think the guy would like to retire eventually, but I mean, he seems like he's having a good time, so maybe not. But yeah, I mean, in my opinion, that's what's going to boil down to. Assuming we're even allowed to do this in 20 or
yeah, I know.
years.
That's why I'm like, at some point where it'll just be like, you guys can't do that. But assuming we are able to, I think there will still be commercial motors available, whatever, maybe not in the same way they are today, but yeah, probably there'll be a lot of clubs will dissolve, and maybe there will be more maybe some I don't know, I guess you kind of already see it a little bit, but some centralized clubs that are really strong that people kind of gravitate towards, rather than, I mean, I don't know, there maybe some of the local clubs will survive, but some of them are people. I can't talk. Sorry. People do a good job of, like, you know, they have their little clique and they want to keep it that way, and so a lot of these people are, you know, getting older, and so I don't know what will happen at that point.
That is a thing I see, which is interesting, because growing up, I was like about as annoying as you could possibly get as a teenager wanting to fly high power rockets, but there's always somebody, you know, inspiring me to continue going, or like trying to give me some guidance when I was coming up with things that I could never afford or didn't have the skill set to do. But it feels like lately a lot more people are tucked in about things that are going on, and like, I think it's because of a fear of regulation. But I mean, I've been lambasted for posting some of the videos that I post, and just in general, it seems like a lot of the older rocketry crowd isn't as inviting as they could be to younger people. I mean, stepping in.
It was kind of like that 20 years ago too, but I think a little bit of it has to do with you know, the a big population of the rocket community kind of getting older. There's plenty of people that are great, and I'm lucky to be in a club where there's lots of, you know, everyone's super welcoming, but there's definitely a lot of those people that are kind of like, get off my lawn,
right?
You know,
yeah, so
you're gonna ruin rockets.
Right.
It's perfect how it is,
right? Well, it's interesting too, because like a lot of people, almost all of the complaints I get are on like the fail compilation videos, but Neil McGilvray from Rockets Magazine was like, yeah, that was happening when we were selling the cool and really cool flights DVDs too. Well, don't worry about it. Just keep going.
When the original Discovery Channel show came out at Argonia 20 years ago, I mean, if you go back and look at those rocketry forum posts around that time, it's like the world is ending, basically. Like,
right.
People were like, we'll see when it airs. I bet the day after that we won't be able to fly rockets anymore. That was basically the consensus. Like it's all over. Like, this is it. Why
Yeah.
we, who approved this at the, why did the organization allow this to happen?
It's
And then it
always
turned out to be like one of the biggest growth of the hobby ever was after that show. So
that's how I found out about high power rocketry. Like other,
that's crazy.
yeah, because you were there.
Yeah.
Oh, look out! Here we go. Rocketry Forrest Gump was there for that one too. Yeah. So I mean, the same thing's happening with like the Dude Perfect videos, and Zyla gets a lot of flack. People are always going to be like that. We just push forward and have a good time. Just if they're mad that you're having fun, have more fun. It's the best thing you can do.
It's all about fun, right? I see a lot of people that don't. I don't know. Maybe they're having fun, but it doesn't look like the same kind of fun we're having.
Right. But all right. Well, let's move on to the next one. Do you have a favorite failure?
Of our own?
No, just
Or
in
just in
general.
general?
Shred Kato deployment failure. I mean, a good shred is hard to beat, dude.
Tintin's moon rocket.
So good.
That's one of the best shreds ever. It just
it was so
was
awesome.
obliterated.
Yeah. And
none of us were really. I think we all expected something to happen, but not that.
Yeah.
Not the way that it came apart.
Yeah, because when he said K695, I was like, that seems crazy. But yeah, let's see what happens. And yeah, it just Steve Jurvetson put on a good contender for it though at Balls this year with his minimum diameter in 5800. That was quite the experience. But if I'm gonna pick one, I'd say it has to go to Shred.
Also, LDRS 25 in Amarillo, Texas, a Contrail O motor had a flame back into the tank, which is super rare, and it's crazy because I've seen two of those. But this is back in when hybrids were hot, and no pun intended. Anyway, it was a Contrail O hybrid, and it basically the flame. I don't know exactly what causes it, but the flame goes up into the nitrous tank, and it was maybe the loudest thing I've ever heard in my life, and it's just like turned it into a million pieces. This is 1,000 feet up in the air or something.
There's a Rockets Magazine has a video of it, right?
Yeah. Oh, probably. I don't know.
I feel like it's on YouTube.
Yeah. Anyway, it was so crazy. If there is video, it doesn't quite, like a lot of loud things. It doesn't quite show up on video properly. But man, it was crazy. That's up there for sure.
Postar, what's your favorite failure mode?
Yeah, I'm going to go with one that I've seen in person. I don't remember if it was Airfest this year or Airfest last year, but it was an N1000 that wasn't glued and all the grains just rained down. That
was really good.
That was one of the most beautiful failures I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was so pretty.
Yeah, Terry he was like, "Wow, isn't that beautiful?" All right, fire folks, let's let's go handle that.
But man, 6 98mm white lightning grains just getting launched down.
If you go watch part 2 of my balls video, that was the M1800 that Kato did. It was like 50 pieces of burning blackjack propellant, and it looks like a firework. It was awesome. Sorry to the guy who lost the rocket and the motor case, but it went out with style, man. My God. All right.
The grain collapse, is that what was decided?
I don't know. That's the one I was telling you about that seemed like it had an awful lot of wiggle room, but you were saying that motor just like has extra space anyway.
I think so, yeah.
I assumed that gluing it might have saved it, but
I would guess grain collapse because you said it was at the end of the burn, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I assume so anyway. I don't know how long it's supposed to burn. It's a black 98, so probably quite a while, but...
Well, I think most of the fast blackjacks are about like white lightning. So maybe, I don't know, those 98s, 8 seconds.
Right. All right, Dylan Bender, last question here. Do you have, from him anyway, do you have a favorite build design paint job of another Rocketeer? I personally like Fred Taverny and his high number of stages in a single rocket. They make for spectacular flights. Yeah, Fred is hard to compete with. But, I mean, anybody who does like a really, really nice paint job with like metallic flake and clear coat and really put some time into it, I love it.
I don't know who owns it, but that green and purple Mystic Buzz that we saw at, where was that? MDRA?
Argonia.
It was Argonia and Midwest Power.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. That thing's nice.
It was beautiful.
That thing's sick.
I know that guy's name. It is slipping my mind at the moment. Slipping. But yeah, that rocket is unbelievably nice. So
Yeah.
The Gates Brothers rockets.
yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's almost cheating though. Their fiberglass guy and the auto body paint and all that. But yeah, I mean, just something with a really nice paint job. And I can always appreciate like a super well thought out like scratch build. I just forgot his name too, but I want to say it was Scott, maybe. He just did that N5800 attempt at balls, and that rocket was unbelievably well built and nice. He like routed out the shape of the carbon in the fins and like laid it up so it was flush and perfect. The whole build's on the Rocketry forum, but yeah, that thing was beautiful.
What was it exactly the question?
Favorite build, design, or paint job from another Rocketeer.
Oh, build, design, or paint job.
Right.
Still the Gates Brothers.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, hard to top. Whether
anything Wedge Oldham does.
Yeah, true.
Otherwise, I don't know. Oh, man, the Gila Monster was sick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a classic. Downright ignorant.
Yeah, that's super classic.
That's not even like a crazy good design, but just like
It's
that
just kind of
entire thing.
It's kind of just a giant lock rocket.
One of my favorite builds, if it's going to be a favorite build specifically, was the 12-inch Talon at LDRS 29. Because Talons are cool, but mostly because they flew it on a P motor and named it "It Burns When I Pee." So
He flew it at LDRS 26 also, right?
oh, maybe. I don't know.
Not on a P motor, like an N or something.
I'm gonna have to check the archives on that one.
Maybe it was an 8-inch Talon.
Oh yeah, that's possible.
That's probably what it was.
All right. And Lisa Gavery, but I'm assuming Jonathan, asks, do you have a favorite propellant type? I know Taylor's.
Classic Blue Thunder.
I think
Although Super Thunder's close. Anyway, go ahead.
if it's going to be a motor that's current or propellant that's in production, I think Propellant X is pretty high up there. The L1256 too, Super White Lightning. I need to fly an M2225 because that propellant's super cool too. But I think my all-time favorite, if you're going to count things that aren't in production still, is the AMW Skidmark.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it's just hard to beat.
I just feel like it's hard to even say that now because like it's so far from existing.
Right. Yeah, I know. I mean,
I'm kind of surprised. I'm kind of surprised you picked that over Caused and Fast.
I mean, Cause and Fast is great too, but like, it's Skidmark, dude.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
I mean, neither of you have. Do you ever see a good one?
I mean, Wilson's was pretty good at LDRS, but I've seen Preston Noble's Sparkies.
Yeah, that's about as close as it gets. Wilson's was okay, but like, it wasn't like how they were though.
Well,
Like,
I've got two K555s and should be picking up a third for Taylor to store for me. So hopefully of those three, we have a real good one. Pawstart, favorite propellant?
red.
Currently in production, red.
Just red or Aerotech red?
Aerotech red.
Yeah, I mean, CTI's red is kind of washed out. It's not that
Yeah.
It's pretty weak.
Yeah.
Actually, all of CTI's colored stuff, I'm not really into.
Or CTI's pink.
Yeah, that's not a propellant per se, though. That's two propellants.
Yeah, that's fair.
But Loki Red's pretty good.
I don't think I've seen Loki Red or the cocktail one.
Loki Red's slow. Cocktail, I mean, is so sick. I just can't afford to do Loki stuff, but
Yeah, the having to buy more hardware part of it makes it difficult, but
Yeah.
we've got some snap ring stuff. We could probably get something together. All right, we're gonna move on to the final question. David Frey sent an email. Said earlier this year you mentioned building an Estes Goblin with the Launch Labs Vanderburn upgrade kit. I believe you said you may be launching it on a G motor. How'd that go? By the way, thank you for turning me on to Launch Labs. I'm flying several rockets with their gear. Love the content. Best regards, David. Oh, it's David Frey. Did I say Fry? At any rate, it was their big Red Max, the 3-inch one. I ordered it with a 38 and plywood fins. I don't honestly even know where that upgrade kit is. I know where the kit is. It's kind of lost in the rocket room post-move tornado cane tsunami quake that's going on in there. But if I do find it, I'll get to it eventually. But
this is kind of unrelated, but it just reminded me, if anyone has a 2.6 inch Nike Smoke, I'm interested in purchasing it. Because you can't really, or Mad Cow, I don't care, or a Cosmodrome, or whatever anyone has. Any of those, Pro Series 2, Mad Cow, Composite Warehouse, Cosmodrome. I think that's all of them I can think of. Any of those, I'm interested suddenly, now that they're not available.
I have a Pro Series 2 one.
What? A Nike?
Yeah.
get wrecked.
Okay, well, we'll have to talk.
I drag raced his dad with it.
Yeah, it's
Oh, wait,
built.
you built it? Oh.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
All right.
Now I have to get one. Anyway,
Yeah, I need one too now, I guess. Somebody hit us up with the plug on the Nike Smokes. At any rate, thank you guys for listening. This is the Anti-Gravity Group podcast. My name is Braden. You can find me on YouTube at Rocket Vlogs, and you can follow me on Instagram at BigB1011. I'm going to hand it off to these guys for their plugs.
My name's Taylor. You can find me on YouTube at The Rocket Channel. And also on Instagram at TJ Snakes with a Z.
My name is Shane, or Postar. You can find me on YouTube with no videos at Postart Propulsions, or on Instagram, if you care to, at Shane Harris Photo.
Awesome. Thank you guys once again for sticking it out. And don't forget to hit the like if you're checking this out on YouTube. And we will see you next time.
Peace.